So far, Amazon's The Rings of Power is an enormous opportunity missed, but it is something that can maybe be retrieved. Amazon allegedly sunk $1 billion into this pile. It turns out that you can pay for this sort of indulgence with a mixture of union busting and aggressive tax avoidance. You may be seen by some as grotesquely immoral, but on the flip side, you can fund a space programme, so swings and roundabouts. Besides, governments don't seem in a hurry to tax them. Anyway, let's see what $1 billion of Amazon's money bought them. To tell us if it was any good, first up, I'm happy to bring back special guest star Lenny Henry.
Is he a nutter?
He is right though. I mean, not about the outfit. He's right about the Rings of Power. The characters are wildly inconsistent and seemingly change core beliefs from one scene to the next. A mix of good and bad acting and very nice landscapes are ruined by the writing time and again. The writing being inconsistent at this point is the only consistent thing about it. And on the subject of grotesquely immoral, Amazon's The Rings of Power episode 4. Yay! I could be watching Predator again. Instead I'm watching this. It could be worse though, I could be watching She-Hulk. So starting the episode, and there is a "it happened in a dream" fake out. A dream sequence in which the Queen of Numenor has a premonition about the destruction of Numenor by a massive flood. She wakes in a cold sweat. Still, it could have been worse. At least they didn't do a dream within a dream. Meanwhile in Numenor, one of the craftsmen is agitating and riling up a crowd, talking about how the elves are taking over. How they're going to take their jobs and livelihoods. I'm sure Amazon Studios set out with the intent of being entirely respectful to Tolkien's life work. But not for the first time. This is less Tolkien and more an attempt to refute populism and the policies of Donald Trump. The problem is, it doesn't even work with the story. Only one elf has shown up on their island in 3 generations? And since she's arrived, she's done nothing but try to leave. In fact, you people made her stay. There is no flood of elves coming to take their jobs. There is one tiny but powerfully annoying elf woman, and that's it. Amazon, if you're going to try and shoehorn American politics into the works of Tolkien with all the subtlety of a bear attack, you could at least make it fit with the plot of the show somewhat. Ooh, what's that footage doing there? That's completely unrelated. Pay no attention to that. This also has no place being inserted into the work of a deceased author who cannot give his consent even if he wanted to, and would probably be very upset at you for even suggesting it if he was alive. It's about as tasteful as trying to edit the Da Vinci painting The Last Supper, so that Judas is more orange and wearing a red ball cap. Let's just hope that Jeff Bezos never accrues enough money to buy it. Galadriel goes to see the Queen of Numenor again, and my god, this scene is painful. This pair have the very opposite of chemistry. The Queen starts off saying, "You vex me, elf. I welcome you as a guest, and you gallop off to the countryside to steal our scrolls whilst your Southlander companion assaults our citizenry." The Queen knows Galadriel's name, so it's kind of rude to keep on calling her elf to her face. But in the Queen's defence, Galadriel's pretty rude as well. The Queen also hardly welcomed Galadriel as a guest. She essentially kept her prisoner. Did Galadriel steal the scrolls? I couldn't tell you. If so, it happened off camera, and boy do I love that. And how is Galadriel responsible for what Halbrand did? That's just guilt by association. So everything the Queen said was nonsense. This is almost impressive. They're making the Queen as unlikable as Galadriel. How can a show be simultaneously so annoying, enraging and boring all at the same time? Captain Elendil is one of the few good things in this show. Him and Halbrand, and oddly Nyssa. I would not have predicted that going into this show, I'll tell you that. Galadriel tells the Queen about Sauron rising and Halbrand being a king in the south, and asks for the Queen's help. It's a bit late now. You maybe should have tried that, Galadriel, before you threatened violence several episodes ago. The Queen says Numenor has chosen another path and won't help, and Galadriel loses it, again, and threatens to go over the Queen's head to her father, and then insults her. The Queen asks Galadriel, "What authority do you have? You weren't sent here with any authority by the elves. You washed up in a tempest." Galadriel responds, "There is a tempest in me. It swept me to this island for a reason, and it will not be quelled by you, Regent." I hate her. Well done, Amazon. You've made me hate Galadriel, a character I used to think was awesome before this series. Galadriel then gets thrown in a cell by the Queen, and I cheered. I just wish it was permanent. Meanwhile, Isildur loses his place as a sailor because in training he lets a rope go. Two of his friends get laid off as well, just for standing too close to him. This is nonsense. You get one chance in their navy, drop a rope and you're out. Also, the two friends that were standing near you are out as well. Galadriel is going to be deported. She's getting what she asked of the Queen last episode. She's going to be taken via boat to Middle-earth. Only, this is now not good enough for Galadriel any longer, despite it being what she demanded only last episode. She now wants an army to take with her too. The Queen better get rid of Galadriel soon, or by next episode she'll be demanded to be made Queen. The guards come for Galadriel in her cell to take her to the boat to be deported. And unarmed, she defeats 4 armed guards in full armour in a few seconds, subduing them all and putting them into her cell. If you're curious how, I can't tell you because it happened off camera again. I'm also not surprised they did it off camera because what she did would be physically impossible. One guard had already closed the cell door that she then pushed them through. So off camera she managed to restrain 4 men while opening a door that they were pressed against, then pushed them all through the door and locked them in, all in the length of time that would be physically impossible. Galadriel is now so OP, even physics can't restrain her, and she escapes to go and see the king in hope of getting help. When Galadriel gets to the king, the Queen is already there waiting for her, and instead of calling the many guards that are allegedly outside the room, she now wants to talk to Galadriel politely instead. The Queen explains that her father is bedridden and explains the prophecy about Numenor being destroyed, saying this is why she's sending Galadriel away. So after Galadriel attacked her guards and disobeyed the Queen again, the Queen has changed personality and is now, for no reason, being considerably more friendly. We cut briefly to Celebrimbor and Elrond, and they have grown suspicious of the dwarves. The prince has apparently been absent for long periods of time, so Elrond goes to see the dwarves. And Deez is quite good again, as she lies to cover for her missing husband. Elrond suspects the dwarves are hiding something, and sets out to find their secret. When he does, the dwarven prince swears him to secrecy, and Elrond says he'll speak of it to no one. The secret that the dwarves have discovered is mithril, and they really don't want information getting out for undisclosed reasons. The prince then gives Elrond some of the mithril as a keepsake for seemingly no reason at all. In a moment, the dwarven prince has gone from "this is a secret that must be kept on pain of death" to here, "have a free sample to take with you." And what sodding sense does that make? I presume this is so Celebrimbor can find the sample later and learn the secret. But why would the dwarven prince give Elrond a sample? The prince is doing the exact opposite of his core motivation of keeping that secret to get the plot where it needs. Meanwhile, in the Southlands, we cut to Plank. The orcs decide to let Plank free, and he's sent to the watchtower where the humans are to take a message. I notice now that Adar is played by the English actor Joseph Maul, so I hope we get more of him. I liked him in Game of Thrones as Benjen Stark. The guy playing Elrond in this also played a young Ned Stark in Game of Thrones. It's a shame this show is not as good as the early Game of Thrones was. We go to the tower where the humans are hiding. and we learn that when they left, they took almost no food with them. Why would you leave and take no food with you? They're now holed up in the tower with 5 small potatoes to feed about 50 people. So 2 boys have to go back to the village to get food, and orcs predictably show up. Bronwyn's annoying son is trapped until Plank turns up and rescues the boy from the orcs in the nick of time. How nice the orcs to send him as a messenger and give him all of his weapons back. Now, this fight sequence is bad. Bonus points for all of them turning their backs at the end as the orcs fire arrows at them. So if an orc was on target, then none of them will actually see it coming and be able to dodge. But the orcs are like snipers when the plot demands it, and aim like stormtroopers when they get back to the tower and Plank delivers his message. Adar wants them all to surrender. He says the humans can live if they serve Adar, and this makes no sense at all. Why send a warrior elf to deliver the message? Why warn them you're coming at all? Why give the warrior elf his weapons back? Why did the humans stop at the tower at all instead of running? Why didn't they take food with them? All of these things they just did. They just did crazy stuff to move the plot in the right direction, and this is becoming a theme. There are no good reasons for any of this. If the orcs hadn't sent a fully armed elven warrior as a messenger to deliver a message that served no purpose in the first place, they would already have the sword that they seemingly want more than anything else in the world. And now that warrior, the untrained humans, marshal a defence against the orcs that spared him for no reason. Right at the end of the show, Galadriel is finally to be put on a boat. She's about to be sent to Middle-earth. Then the wind blows and the petals fall off of the big tree in Númenor, and the Queen changes her whole policy again. She's now going to send an army to the Southlands with Galadriel instead of sending Galadriel alone. All of this because petals fell off of a tree and the Queen sees it as an omen. Lots of her people volunteer to go, including Isildur and his friends. This whole episode was boring nonsense. The only good thing I can say about the plot was, at least mercifully, it contained no Harfoots.